Across the globe, governments are rolling out digital public infrastructure. To open a bank account, receive healthcare, or travel, citizens are increasingly legally required to enroll in national digital ID systems. This digital capture interface shows the level of detail being demanded, high-resolution biometrics of an applicant's left and right eye. Unlike a password, these are permanent physical markers that are now being stored in national databases. The risks of this concentration became clear in 2018 with India's Aadhaar system. Personal records for over 1.1 billion citizens were reportedly sold by unauthorized agents on WhatsApp for a nominal fee, exposing names, addresses, and phone numbers. It's a recurring global pattern. A recent report from dark web intelligence agency StealthMole identified a potential 17 million record leak from the Malaysian MyCAD system, including biometric data and ID numbers. By making these programs mandatory for basic participation in society, governments have transformed digital identity into a massive, non-consensual cybersecurity risk. The Alan Turing Institute recently reported that these systems are the critical, weakest link in national digital infrastructure. Because these platforms are deeply interwoven, they act as risk amplifiers. A compromise in the identity layer allows an attacker to move laterally into connected financial, health, and government services. This chart maps identity software vulnerabilities directly to their attack vectors, showing an overwhelming concentration in network entries. These exist even in foundational enterprise-grade architecture. Globally, identity flaws fuel synthetic fraud and account takeovers, costing tens of billions every year. When investigative reporters exposed the flaws in the Aadhaar database, the response from India's ID authority was to file police reports against the journalist and the newspaper for misreporting. Instead of addressing the structural vulnerabilities identified by researchers, authorities are prioritizing the defense of their mandate, choosing to silence the messenger rather than acknowledge the risks inherent in the system. Most national ID systems use a centralized honeypot architecture. Every citizen's record is stored in a single central data vault, which is then connected to outer nodes like banks and hospitals through a web of access pipelines. This creates a single point of failure. If the central vault is breached from a single outer node, the entire repository of sensitive data can bleed outward to malicious actors. This leads to the Dossier problem. To verify your identity for a simple transaction, the system often pulls up and exposes your complete digital profile, including biometrics and financial info, even when a simple yes or no would suffice. This flaw is widely recognized. Organizations like the World Bank are now endorsing a completely different, decentralized architecture for fast and inclusive payments. The continuous deployment of vulnerable honeypots is a deliberate architectural choice, not a technical necessity. This flowchart details an alternative, self-sovereign identity, or SSI, supported by a verify without reveal framework. It redefines the interaction between the individual, the issuer, and the verifier. Here, the government issues a verifiable credential that is stored locally in the citizen's own digital wallet. This eliminates the need for a central, high-value database for every transaction. The security comes from a zero-knowledge proof. This allows a system to mathematically verify a claim, like your age or residency, without the verifier ever seeing the underlying data itself. For example, a resident can prove they are over 18 or that they live in a specific municipality without revealing their birth date, their full name, or their street address to a frontline clerk. As the flowchart shows, the verifier only receives a cryptographic yes or no. Because it only processes events, not the data itself, there is no surplus information for a hacker to steal. By removing the central repository, zero-knowledge architecture eliminates the single point of failure that enables mass data breaches. If zero-knowledge technology provides the same security and verification, why do governments continue to aggressively mandate vulnerable honeypots? Centralized ID systems are often built to enable wide-scale tracking and categorization of citizens. This architecture, while sold as a tool for efficiency, significantly expands a government's capacity to monitor and regulate individual access to basic resources. There are also financial incentives. Many of these programs are public-private partnerships, where private corporations provide the infrastructure in exchange for access to a consolidated, high-value database of citizen information. When these centralized systems fail, the impact is devastating. Entire cities are locked out of essential services by ransomware, and marginalized groups are unjustly denied access to welfare benefits by automated exclusion errors. The tools to build a perfectly secure, privacy-preserving digital identity exist right now. We no longer have to trade our private data for access to basic public services. The barrier to secure digital identity is a lack of political will. Until the public rejects the Dossier model, government mandates will continue to put 1 billion lives at risk.